I think the big difference between Wasserman Schultz and a lot of other people that you've probably experienced being on the Hill with is that a lot of people want to be in positions of power. They want to be in positions of authority. What Debbie is unique to, unlike a lot of other people in the halls of Congress, is that she will step on anybody and she will throw anybody under the bus to maintain her position. And that is the real danger of what is happening right now, especially with what I believe is her responsibility for Florida becoming such an almost a blood red state. I think she bears a significant amount of responsibility. And that's why this particular race, when everybody's noticing, why is she running in a predominantly Black and Hispanic district of which she has never represented before?
She doesn't live there.
No. And so I do think that that is obviously a huge component here, but we have to get this out of the way. This is very important because this is also one of the reasons why you're having a blackout, no pun intended, with people not wanting to cover this race. From your perspective, they're giving the attention to the other candidates in the race, but they don't want to give the attention to the person who has the, let's be honest, the best chance to stopping Wasserman Schultz. You've been a sitting congresswoman for 3 terms. And you, unfortunately, did have to resign. So without there being any hoopla surrounding this, please explain to the audience the best way possible what actually went down and why you had to resign.
Well, the simplest thing I could say is that when it came to the ethics investigation, it became very clear that they weren't interested in having a fair process. A fair process would mean that we would have enough time to prepare. A fair process is we could turn in documents. And what really showed it was during the hearing, which they've only had 3 hearings since Congress has ever been there, 3 public hearings, and they have been with all Black members, me, Maxine Waters, and John Conyers. Yep, only. Yeah, and so the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, actually wrote ethics a letter saying that this is more of a public shaming and embarrassment that you utilize only to Black members. And I mean, once we saw that and their commitment to that and how they were just so focused on doing this before the election, it became very clear that this was less about justice and this was more about a seat, a congressional seat. But we knew. Yeah, she did know. So we knew probably, I mean, right after the president was elected, we knew very shortly after when he asked the governor of Texas that we were going to be consolidated also, like there were going to be seats in Florida. But we also knew, because she would say all kinds of vile things about the governor and all kinds of people and just the actions, that she was going to be on the chopping block along with other people. So we knew that, she knew that. And that's when she started to aggressively attack me and do things under the cloak and like come after me. But, you know, when she was doing all this, my whole take on it was, you know, you've been in Congress for a long time and you play these games, and this is the same person who stole a presidential primary from Bernie. So someone to this caliber thinks that they are a god. They think they deserve to be there. So I knew nothing was off limits, but never did I think that she would go to this extent in creating all of these issues and even pulling all the clout she claims to go there. But I think the biggest thing that we have noticed is everywhere I go in the district, they're like, what happened was truly unfair. In my situation, the state of Florida, they never even named me in the situation. They said they made a clerical error and they've been dealing with the company since then. And they made us aware, made the company aware 4 years later about this clerical error, and it was resolved in mediation. And so now for us to be here and they're trying to rebirth this as an issue or something real, I mean, I think that's like the most egregious part of it. It's like, okay, if they didn't find it there, they said it was a clerical error. How are you now trying to say that I was involved in something like that when, you know, it's been there? But I think the biggest thing about this whole thing, that everybody can see the injustice. And right after she announced that she was running in the district, that I think was District 20's aha moment. You know, that's when they said, oh, we've been here before. In 92, Alcee Hastings went through a similar situation when they created these Black access districts and they accused him of bribery. And they also put somebody else in the race. And this was drawn to be a Black seat. Back then, Lois was the one. Lois Frankel actually ran for the Black access districts.
Okay.
And at that time, when she ran in 92, she ran with the collective of people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, pushing her to run and try to take over this district that was actually drawn as a Black access. Now, it's important why people know why. So the history of the district is Black access because historically this district has been prevented from actually voting, the Black people in the district. We have Sistrunk, which is a major area. Sistrunk actually was one of our most productive, kind of like a Black Wall Street. And it was actually burnt down by a group of white people in Fort Lauderdale who felt like Black people should not have access. Then there were the poll tax. Even as early, because I go to these churches all the time, they talked about how they had to have meetings in the church about how can they vote, how to prepare for voting, because there was constant suppression. We also saw the similar activity in Palm Beach, which used to connect my district. And over there, they had the sticks, and the sticks went through the same thing. It was a Black blooming Black class of people who were working to build Palm Beach. That also was burnt down. So because the country felt, and this is not Democrat, Republican, this is everyone. It was bipartisan. They felt, well, we have to remediate this wrong. And that's where we had Black access for the first time in 1992. And we saw this activity again. So here we are. Same thing, the same game again. Let's try and push an indictment and say there was illegality and put somebody else into the race and say they're more qualified, which is the biggest insult you can say to anybody, is that your candidate from outside is more qualified than anybody who's lived in the district. And so I'll be quite honest with you. A lot of Black people feel like what the real message is she's trying to say is that you can't govern yourself. I can do it for you. And that is the most offensive.
Oh, I think that it's more than that. I think that her running in your district is her really telling the Black community how little she thinks of it. Absolutely. And the reason I'm saying that is she actually feels that she has a better chance of buying your district than running a fair fight in the district she's in. That's how little she thinks of the Black community. And it's infuriating to me. And I saw it when I was running. The way that she bullies that community and threatens them, and they come out for her. And I do believe that her hands are all involved in the other primary candidates and their participation in this race.
Absolutely. If you look at it, I mean, I tried to even have a conversation with some of them. I'm like, hey, look, if you raise about this amount of money, then you should be further along. You got to kind of check your staff too and find out who they're working with. I think there's other things too that are more egregious. If you look at how much money, she has raised, she's raising that money to run in a competitive district, right? Yeah. When you're in Congress, I'm in a safe district, so we usually don't raise that kind of money. We save that money and we actually donate to people who are in competitive districts so they can win for the majority. But what she did is took all that money for a competitive district and said, oh, okay, thanks you guys for all this money. And now we're going to come into this Black district where you can't raise it. And, we're disadvantaged in raising that amount and just come in and try to buy people. I say that because she's offered pastors like $10,000 for her support. Yes,
she does. And let me tell you, and those pastors will entertain whoever's willing to outbid her. Because if I had wanted to sit down and meet with them, which I wouldn't, I know that's how it goes. You just have to outbid her.
So it's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sheila, what I wanted to just reiterate, based on what happened and your resignation, the thing that really stuck out to me was that the media made it, and again, I fully believe Wasserman Schultz was behind this with her contacts within the media, was this idea, regardless of whether you did anything wrong, perhaps you did, but they were making it seem like you stole the money. And the way you put it out there like that, say, listen, technically it is your money. Your organization, what you did to supply the state with COVID-19 vaccines. Again, is it a clerical error? Sure. But the way they made it seem was that you were taking money that wasn't yours, that you stole the money. And I'm thinking, okay, if that's what they're doing, then they have an agenda. There is an agenda to get you out. There's no question.
Absolutely. So, they conveniently left out a lot of things when we had this conversation. I've done interviews, and on my interviews, they cut it all out, right? Which you probably know why. But at the end of the day, the contract was for $21 million. We had nurse practitioners. We actually facilitated all over the country where I'm all over the state of Florida, and we were paying staff. There was never an argument that the work wasn't done. Now, remember, the contract was $21 million. We were paid only $14 million. And then they came back to say that there was a mistake. the company was actually going back and forth to find out, hey, what happened to the rest of our payment? Why weren't people allowed to work? So there was an actual dispute. But if you hear how they were phrasing it, was as if there was money that was stolen or work that was never done. That was never the case. There was never an argument that my nurses and the doctors and all those people who were working, risking their lives, did the work. There was never an issue of if I actually did the work. And I think that's important. And even when I did interviews, conveniently, they cut that part out because at the end of the day, she has those relationships with the media. And who's going to actually support her in that media? She's called to put it out. If you look at the algorithms to put out that story, that was her. But the good thing about it is that in my district, District 20, we've gone through this before. The District 20, we are used to being marginalized. We are used to having these stories and opinions of us being pumped out by the same people. You know, at the end of the day, I've said from the beginning, I've been innocent. The state didn't file anything. We never did anything wrong. I never did anything wrong. But that's not what they were spinning. And it's convenient how they spun it. And now if you look at the media, they keep trying to put her in the district as if she's the incumbent.
Right.
And they keep trying to elevate other people who they know that they can't beat her. But
Correct.
it's okay because we've led several grassroots movements and we've beat everybody. So at this point, you know, even when I was leaving Congress, no one forced me to leave. I just realized, you know what, I'm not going to give you what you want because you would love to come to that conclusion and continue running that storyline. So instead, I will resign. And I took care of everything I needed to take care of for my district. And I'm going to go home and tell everybody what's going on. And at the end of the day, I said, you know what? You could fight me here in Congress because you have these people and I'm sure you've done favors. But you know what? Come fight me in the streets. Because in these streets, you can't win. You don't know how to fight in the streets. You don't know these people. And so every single day, we're out here talking to the people who I grew up with, who loved me, who believed in me. And we see right through it. And it's interesting now because all of a sudden she wants to walk around with a Juneteenth shirt on. I mean, please. No, I'm not a Juneteenth shirt. You know what that is? I'm like, that's like a Rachel Dolezal. Do y'all know who Rachel Dolezal is?
Of course.
Yes. So at this point, Debbie walking around here looking like Rachel Dolezal. Soon she's about to have box braids and cornrows, okay?
I was just going to say, like, her hair was like there was self-effect.
Her hair, though, might qualify. I'm just saying, if that hair is...
Absolutely not, okay? I mean, walking at this point, and then it's so interesting because at events, they're like, oh, she's here. She's like, I love the people. And there was one that was a reggae festival. And they're like, well, who's your favorite artist? And that you're here, well, I don't know anybody here. Well, you want to do a dance? Like, people are literally talking about like you are appropriating and making fun of our culture. We could represent ourselves. We can talk. We could do all this for ourselves. But the blinders of entitlement. This is about the blinders of entitlement. For you not to see that the community is actually laughing at you and not actually welcoming you is a blinder of entitlement. And I think at the end of the day, the storyline that they're pushing, that she's going to win this, the storyline that they're pushing, that Black people love it, it's going to actually fade and dissipate in their face. And they're going to understand what this is really about, is that we fought several years to get these seats in centuries. I've been representing this district for 5 years and went unopposed. Everybody who's trying to run in this seat would not be running but for the crisis and the scandal she created. And they know they can't beat me. So like I said, fight me in the streets. Let's talk. Don't tell me about what you want to do. Tell me what you have done. Because everybody who's in this race could have been helping the community. But to come out and try to say, you know, oh, I've never done anything for anybody, but I'm going to run. Or to even come and say, I mean, let's talk about, I'll be very transparent with you. In DC, we have 15 community projects, right? Those are projects that we choose for our community. Debbie Wasserman Schultz has never done a project for a Black community. She's never done a project that actually went to a Black nonprofit. As a member, I have done several. I've done one that went to Compass, which is an organization for LGBTQ. I have done some that have gone to Jewish organizations to help everybody. I have done for Black. I have done for Hispanic, because that is our responsibility, to see everybody in their need and make sure they're getting the culturally competent care they need. But for you to sit there and, you know, when she represented her other district, that was majority minority also. You know, in fact, like she has Miramar. And for you not to have done not one project that actually leans towards the people, even housing projects that deal with the people who need it the most, that speaks volumes. And then to come in and say, oh, well, I've done it for these organizations, it totally eliminates you trying to say that you see people for who they are. That's a total, you're ignoring the plight of Black people. You're ignoring the plight of Hispanic people. You're ignoring our plight, even of the LGBTQ community, because you are not acknowledging that the needs are different and must be met in different ways.
No, and the other thing that pisses me off the most about her, when she sits there and says, oh, I'm used to being in a majority minority district. No, you're not. Not the same. West Venezuela and a whole bunch of wealthy white Venezuelans does not a minority make, lady. Like, this is what I'm thinking. Like, that is not, you don't get to claim that. All right.
The
so
blinders, right?
I call
Just thinking.
It's caucasity, Sheila. It's a level of caucasity that knows no fucking bounds. But before, we're going to have to talk about the Israel situation. All right. And I know that in the past you have taken money from the Israel lobby. And I know that I have sent you a couple of texts, sort of like basically begging and pleading with you to like maybe revisit that concept. And I want to know where you are right now on that, in terms of what we should be giving to Israel, if anything, and if you are planning on taking money from that lobby.
Well, I'm not planning on taking any money from them because I think that times have been shifting. You know, when I was in Congress, I was actually the ranking member as far as that's the Democratic lead when it comes to the Middle East. And my concern was about balance. You know, we have to be looking at balance. I did take several trips to Israel and I did meet with Netanyahu. And my thing was, are you opening up the gates to make sure people are eating? And we actually went to Egypt and other places to make sure the food was coming in. And we worked with the World Kitchen and the World Bank. We worked with so many different organizations to make sure that those pipelines were there and to make sure that what we were getting reports on was actually accurate. And so I think that a lot of times there's an oversimplification about what's going on in the area. And I think that there's a lot of people who are saying, well, we need to do this, we need to do that. And I think at the end of the day, it is more than just a one-sided conversation. We need a whole plan and we need to be working with the mediators more. A lot of the conversations I did have, it was with Egypt, it was with Qatar, it was with the surrounding Palestinian or Israeli, not Israel, but the surrounding Arab nations who were helping support so we can come to a solution. And I think that's what we should be focused on right now is where is the solution? Or we going to keep focusing on funding Israel for whatever outlet they're trying to get.
Well, that's what I want to know. Like for me, there needs to no longer be a Jewish ethno-state. It's done. The Zionism project has failed. It's failed. We're watching them commit a Holocaust. Okay. We're not going to pretend that that's not happening. And the only thing that allows them to do that is us. So what we're looking for are people to say, not on our dime anymore. No more. No.
I think it's a little, go ahead.
That's what we want.
Yeah, I think that it becomes a little complicated just because of the military interest also. But I do believe that right now we're all seeing, hey, we need to come to a place where we can all negotiate and figure out how to end this. Do I think the right person to negotiate with is Netanyahu? No. He has shown what his objective is. He has shown what he wants to do. And we're going to have to keep pulling in more people from around, especially when it comes to the Arab states, to figure out how we're going to get out of here. But I don't feel like enough attention is being put on that solution because we keep talking about, do they need more money? Well, we have people who need help. We have people who actually need food. We have kids who need school.
Which is why we need to cut them off.
Right.
And we need Congress to be done giving them money.
Right.
And this is something you cannot dance around it. You're going to have to just take a fucking stand on it. And Debbie is going to ride that fucking AIPAC thing all the way to the end and all their money. And it's like, you have nothing to lose by taking a stand on this.
Well, it's not even, I don't feel like I have anything to lose and I do take a stand on it, but I feel like the stand is not enough. You know, when we are going forward, we need to have a plan. Remember, we talked about this also. What is the plan? Because if it's just anti-AIPAC, then what are we for? We still left everybody out there. We had several conversations about how much food is getting in. What is the real pathway to get in? I actually walked and we were in Egypt and we saw all the lines of these food trucks. And my question is like, are we playing or what? Right? Why are they still out here? Why aren't they reaching the people? Why isn't life normalizing? What is the plan? Because as we go back, and I always have concerns when you have people who aren't suffering the most at the table going back and forth, because we will be arguing about one thing. Meanwhile, if you ask the people who are suffering it, they're like, we just want to go back to regular life. We want to build a future for our children. We want to be able to have a home where we have a family once again. We want to actually get past this trauma. But
and how does that happen? But there's
Right.
only one way that happens. The only way that happens is to end the Zio
They
state.
have to be defanged.
They
There is
have to
no
go
way.
away.
I mean,
They cannot coexist on this planet with the rest of us. They are
we have come
incapable.
we have come to a point now where you've seen obviously what's happened in New York. You saw what happened in Denver. The tea leaves within the party, it's obvious. Now, granted, to be fair, South Florida is not Denver, it's not New
No.
York City. But at the same time, there is this fervor, this desire for change that is, it takes courage. It does. Because I know how powerful the Zionist lobby is in South Florida. I am a victim of it. I lost my job. I got fired because a very powerful person in the Israel lobby decided that they were going to make
And
sure.
Laura Loomer got him fired.
Laura was part of it. So I understand that there are always risks involved in speaking out, but there's also something to be said for recognizing this moment, understanding what it's going to take to go over the finish line. Because, the one thing that, I think we could speak freely on here. We know Elijah. I'm not going to say, that he's like a bad person. I think he's extremely naive, but he's also somebody who is saying things regarding what's going on, almost like as a freewheeler, knowing that there is no real consequence. Because for anybody out there who thinks that Elijah Manley can win that race, he cannot. Let's just keep it straight.
And you're delusional. And you're causing the problem, which is starting to make me think. And Elijah, if you see this, I gave you the benefit of the doubt for fucking years. But it's starting to really scream like you and Dean are working with Debbie. That's what I'm getting. That's the read I'm getting. And especially with how fast he blew through how much money?
And so let's just get this out there, because the latest FEC report has not been dropped yet. But if you're going based on exclusively what has gone on at the end of March, coming up till now, he has raised, again, maybe it's over $1 million now for all we know, but at that time, he had raised $750,000, and he was sitting on $20,000. Now, if you ask me, if that's how you're spending money to win a congressional race in a district you have never been a representative of in any capacity, that screams something's not on the level here.
Who's getting that money, Elijah? Who's getting that money? Because I don't understand where you spent that kind of money and you're not even having anything left over for get out the vote. What are you doing?
So I think that, I had a conversation when we met, and one of the things I said to him, I said, Elijah, $800,000 is a lot of money. You could literally mail out a mailer to every single one of the super voters for a fraction of that. You should have had 4 mailers. They should know your name and what you're for now. But your campaign is one where it's an anti-campaign. No one knows what you're for, and no one knows who you are. The only way they know you is that you run in every single election. Now, online, people may know what you reinvented yourself as,
Correct.
But the people who have seen you over and over, and he actually looked like he actually believed that this team is working for him. This team is not. This team is here to split the vote. This team is here to be anti. And I think one of the biggest things that showed me that is when we had a debate. In a debate, you use every opportunity to highlight yourself and what you're doing for the people. That is one opportunity you have to talk to people. Instead, what we had going on was every time he answered it for the first 5 seconds, and then it turned back to her. When you turned it back to her, she's given more time to respond. So now you are actually creating a situation where you're amplifying her and not yourself. And I said, this strategy was designed to amplify her. But at the end of the day, correct. But at the end of the day, I think what makes the voters sick and tired is that they're sick and tired of these petty politics. Sick and tired of this fight between candidates, because at the end of the day, people are sitting there fighting each other, and this is a war. Elijah came after me, which I'm sure that was their point also, try and tear me down and lift him up. But at the end of the day, people do not care about petty politics. They don't want to hear politicians fighting themselves. What they want to hear and what they want to know is, what is your strategy and your plan to make my life better? And that's what I've been focusing on. Housing, people will say, we're going to build more housing. Building more housing is only a fraction of the solution. If you build more housing and I can't afford it, and what? We need to have a strategy. If you build more housing and you put me in it, but I ain't got a job, and what? I'll be evicted in a week. If right now in this economy, we've seen more people losing their jobs, especially when it comes to Black women. Right now, I think it was the first 3 months, we saw over 300,000 Black women who got fired. Now we're looking at 600,000 Black women who got fired. Do you know who are the wealthiest and most concentrated people in my district? Black women. That is a crisis in our district. We are not talking about that. I've been the only one sounding the alarm that we are actually suffering more economically than anybody else around us. And no one's trying to figure out what is really at the heart of it. So our district cannot come up if we are not attacking those issues. When we look at our seniors, we have so many seniors who work so hard to, attain the American dream, and now they can't afford to stay in their house. We have the largest numbers of hunger when it comes to our seniors. So sitting here and listening to all the bickering back and forth, at the end of the day, anybody care about them? No one cares about you guys fighting because you're sitting there eating filet mignon with your campaign money, and Debbie's sitting there with her money too. No one cares about y'all. They want to know about solutions. They want to know if you see me, and that's where we have to be grounded in. And the more I think about, when I look at the victories that have been going on throughout the country, I mean, it says something very pivotal is, do you actually even feel us? When you see how people are starving and how they're suffering and how there's no opportunity, there's a sense of hopelessness. And what are we doing if we're not talking about how to actually make people feel better and attain jobs and live better? I think we're engaging in the stupidity that everybody hates, and they're going to continuously vote against it.
Good.
I want to conclude on what I think is a very important issue that is getting overlooked. What has often been what I consider to be the people who get kicked the hardest in communities of color are Haitians. You were the first Haitian American congressional representative. I don't think that's any small thing. It's all about representation. And as you were alluding to, this is something that is attempting, Wasserman Schultz is attempting to whitewash it. I want people to hear, Jen does not like Megyn Kelly, and I'm sure you don't either.
Did you summon the Megalodon?
Yes.
Oh, you did. You summoned the Megalodon. Oh, yes. Bottom feeder, parasites off Trump's taint, 120 pounds of dense silicone, 3 pounds of blonde polyester fiber, and her behavior is easily excitable by the blood in the water, but only capable of feeding off other predators' prey. Okay. Thank you for reintroducing the Megalodon. Sorry.
Haiti is a country that, if anybody knows, has been through hell for centuries, starting with France. Obviously, we have not made it any better. And this is what Megyn Kelly had to say regarding the latest ruling against the Haitian people.
This has been going on for over a dozen years. Go home. Get out. We know our country's better than yours. That's because we filled it with our work ethic and our culture and our values. You being here only dilutes it for us, those who built it and live it.
Let her go.
And half of you people, more than half, you won't assimilate. We don't want you. We don't care if you're offended. Get out. Go home. Go back to fucking Haiti. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Like they don't want to live like Americans live. And this was supposed to be it was supposed to be temporary help. And it's turned into another backdoor way of allowing someone permanent residency here. And they take advantage of all of our public services.
Oh my God.
That's pretty bad.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's bad.
Oh.
I mean, my attitude has always been, if you're bigoted, just let it fly.
Well, and I don't mind that. No, she should. Yeah. No, I'm glad she does.
People say what they want. But we want to hear from you because, this is something that, again, has been put into the media's, this has been put out there. Why is it so important that the representative has to be Black or has to be Haitian or something? Could you explain why representation for your community is important? Well,
I think the bigger thing that we have to address is the ignorance in the statement. I mean, the ignorance in the statement, even talking about who has built this country.
Wait, was it Megan? Oh my God, I
I'm
thought it was
sure
Megan.
Megan's ancestors didn't build not a damn thing. So we'll start and we'll leave it there. And I think also when you hear the foolishness and her not understanding the economic impact of we're looking at over 300,000 Haitian people who've been working in our system. In South Florida, we have over 120,000 who work in healthcare and throughout South Florida. So you want to do a mass exodus. Who is going to work and build up this economy? Haitians bring over $65 billion a year into the United States working those jobs. So I think it's interesting that she's allowing her ignorance to cloud the economic impact and destruction that will come to the country. And it's just true. And I think a lot of this pro-America, which means anti-everybody else, it actually is divisive, and that's what demoralizes everybody in the country, because now you're trying to do this exclusivity that certain people belong here and they don't. You know, my parents are from Haiti. I was born here. And the truth is, in South Florida, there's many people who are like me. And at the end of the day, it's important that we raise up our voices and we can actually control our own narratives, because our own narrative is that we are not on any kind of welfare, because Haitians don't even know welfare exists. There's no welfare in Haiti. Who teaches you about coming here and being on welfare? Right. It's just totally not true. We are hardworking people. We're educated people. And then to your, question you asked me about representation matters, because when you don't represent yourself, you leave yourself open for exploitation. Before 1992, we weren't even able to really have a real voice at the ballot box. They did everything to suppress us. Yep. And because at the end of the day, we know what this is. Representation should be for every single person. Why should our representation be taken away from us because you have more money or you feel like you could have more money? We have to be able to talk about our own struggles and our own stories, and even look at the issues that we're talking about. We talked about 300,000 Black women being fired, 600,000 asked to date, silence from her. We talked about when it came to diversity, equity, and inclusion, who was actually being damaged? Our children, our families. Silence from those people who don't feel it. If you haven't walked in my shoes, you don't know what I suffer. You don't know what actually ignites me and what hurts me. And that's why our voices need to be heard. Because you know what? These fake voices, this phoniness, thinking that you can put on a Juneteenth shirt and walk around and try to kiss Black babies and think that you can empathize with my struggle is insulting.